Mr. Hunt, what time do you have?
Yeah, I have 7 o'clock. I kind of knows. I think the clock's a little slow.
Yeah, well, I got 6:59.
There it is, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
Okay, just making sure it wasn't my phone somehow. We need to get that fixed.
Tim, the cell phones are coming off the atomic time.
Well, I know they're supposed to, but mine doesn't always do what it's supposed to do.
Must have one, he must have an Android.
I do, actually. Okay, folks, it's finally 7 p.m. Our clock in the back is a little bit slow, but all our cell phones up here are on 7 p.m., so we'll get started. Madam Clerk, do you have all the recording devices turned on?
Yes, sir.
Okey dokey. This will be the May 27th, 2021 Stokesdale Planning Board meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the agenda? And if so, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, we'll vote. Mr. Nadell?
Aye.
Mr. Hamel?
Aye.
Mr. Louie?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
And I'm ayes also.
1 second.
I did.
All right, from here and here.
Take your pick.
Approval of minutes. Madam Clerk, might I understand that we don't have any draft minutes available?
That is correct, sir.
Is there some reason why? Do you know when they'll be available, what the holdup is?
Soon. First thing I do. I have not had time to take that.
I see. Okay, we'll move on. Old business, conditional rezoning case number 21-03 STPL-01727, 8643 Oak Level Church Road. And I believe we have a representative for the applicant that wants to have a word with us.
Good evening. My name's Norris Clayton. I'm with Hugh Creed Associates Engineers, 1306 West Wendover Avenue in Greensboro. Here on behalf of the owner of the property, American Development Pooler, to talk about changing the conditions of the zoning, current zoning of the property. I'd like Ethan Creed here to pass out a couple of handouts. Hopefully tonight we can make things a little clearer so y'all can come to an agreement on, passing it on up to the town council.
Thank you.
Okay, the present property is zoned conditional use RS30, which is a 30,000 square foot minimum lot size typically. The current conditions on the property is that the density is not to exceed 1 dwelling unit per acre. Second condition is a minimum lot size of 40,000 square feet. And the third condition is municipal water or a community water system will be used. I feel like the first two are sort of redundant. If you got a maximum density not to exceed 1 unit per acre, that's the same as a 40,000 square foot zoning condition. So you're sort of saying the same thing there. If you look on the two handouts we gave you, there's one that says previously approved 40,000 square foot lots. It's down in the lower left-hand corner of the paper. That's the current zone. We could start this subdivision right now. I mean, it's all been approved. The conditions are there, everything there. What's in red you see is we had the soils evaluated, and the red is good soil area for septic areas. You can also see with the 40,000 square foot minimum lot size, you have to put a little more area on the north side of that road to get 40,000 square foot per lot. We're not trying to get any more lots, same amount of lots, 24 lots. We're just trying to reposition the road so that we can get more good soils on a larger number of lots, so we don't have to do as many offsites. If you look on the second handout, which it says proposed 30,000 square foot lots, that again has 24 lots. It's the same map, except the lots have a minimum size of 30,000 rather than 40,000. This allows more good soils as a septic fields on the southern side of that road. And we feel like this give a better chance to get the 24 lots. We're not trying to ask for any more lots, and we're not changing conditions to try to gain any more lots. We just want to try to get what we're allowed to get for the zoning. You can also see that just to get 40,000 square foot on these lots, in the first handout, those lot lines go down across the drainage way over on the other side, which is pretty much useless land for that person that owns that lot. If you go to 30,000 square foot lots, we can keep the lot lines on the north side of that drainage area and leave more open space for the community to have. So, you know, in developing is based off how many lots you can get on the property, and that is a condition of zoning. It's also a condition of the lay of the land. This land has, drainage way going through it, has limited permeable area because of the topography in some areas. And with those conditions, you sort of guess on how many lots you're going to get, and your design is based off of that. All your numbers for developing and making it work profitability-wise on those conditions. So, you know, our developers run the numbers, and 24 lots, he thinks it'll work with that. And we're just trying to give him a better chance to get to that 24 number. We've asked, we got an option of going on a well system or extend the water line. We'd like to extend the water line, but there again, lots, you know, the developer gets a lot. That's a chunk of money he gets. If he loses a lot, he loses a chunk of money. He doesn't lose a little, percentage of his profit. He loses a chunk. And, we want that. There's a number somewhere where if we don't get enough lots, it's not worthwhile to extend the water line out to it. And it'd be cheaper to do a well rather than extend the line. But, with what we got here, we'd like to extend the line. So, there again, we're just trying to get to change the condition to better lay out the property and make it more efficient. We're not increasing density, no intention of doing that. Just better layout of the property, I think. There were some questions last meeting that were brought up, and I wanted to go over some of those, maybe to clarify them. They were worried about the soil conditions. I've given you a layout of what we see as the soil, good soils on the site that are perkable. They was worried about the drainage way going through that. Well, that's governed by either the county or the state or the Corps of Engineers if it's determined as stream or wetlands. And that'll all be delineated when we get, if we get the property zoned and ready to build on. Those type of things go through the approval process. There was some talk about some Indian burial grounds. I went out there to walk the property, and the property is so thick you can't walk it. So they're clearing it off some now so we can actually get a feel for if there's anything out there. There are laws governing burial grounds on properties. If you find one, you got to stay away from it. And we would do that if we find one. If anybody here knows exactly where they're at and can show us, we'd like for you to do that. And I'll be willing to meet you out there and go over it. The lots are for sale lots. Somebody questioned whether or not they were. The developer is intending to sell the lots, not build on them himself, so he will sell them to builders or homeowners who want to buy the lots. And like I say, we'd like to extend the water line rather than the individual or the community well, which is about a 3,000-foot extension of the water line down Oak Level Road. So that being said, if you got any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them for you. Or
Okay, I thought the applicant had made a firm commitment to connect these to the town's water system.
he definitely wants to, but the present conditions as they lie gives him that option.
Okay, well, excuse me a second. Mr. Bass, is the applicant required to connect this to the town's water system?
Yes, based on yes, he would be required to connect based on the new, the current ordinance, and based on the ordinance that was readopted regarding the RS-30 zone subdivisions, that it must connect to the town water system.
Okay.
It's currently with the conditions that was previously passed, that he must either connect to the town water system or do a community well.
With the existing zoning, but if
With
it's
the
changed to RS-30, it has to be connected to the town's water system.
Correct.
Is that also your understanding, sir?
Yeah, that would work.
Okay, so it's not a matter of the applicant wanting to, the applicant's going to be required to. Agreed?
Okay, I mean, because it is a conditional use RS-30, yes.
Okay,
But yeah.
Because that was my understanding from our last meeting
Okay.
when we continued this.
That's true.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Bass, do you have these two maps? Have they been submitted to you?
I received them tonight. Yes.
Okay, but heretofore, the town didn't get these until tonight, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Just,
No,
we like to have these things ahead of time when we can, so we have an opportunity to look at them and study them. Mr. Bass, do you see any problem with either one of these maps? I know that's putting you on the spot, not haven't had time to review them.
well, the layout, I'm not familiar with the SARs, but the layout seems to be consistent with the sketch plan that was submitted with the application.
I noticed that they're just a sketch. There's no.
But with regards to the types of soil, I'm guessing that's an evaluation that they had done with the soil scientists. Correct. I'm not familiar with that. Of course, that's not my field of expertise.
Okay.
But just to know that it would have to go through an evaluation process as they go through the subdivision.
Well, do you have anything to add as far as a staff report to this?
The only thing, there was some question about the notices at the last meeting, there were two adjacent property owners. They were not in the Guilford County tax parcel, but they were in Rockingham County, their address information. So for this meeting, we made sure that those two individuals got a mailed notice. And then there was there were two other couples that was extended a mailed notice as well. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this rezoning? Or anyone online that would like to speak in favor? Hearing none. Is there anyone that would like to speak opposed? Is there anyone that wants to oppose this rezoning? If so, you'll need to come forward to the podium and give your name and address, and you can have a few minutes to speak to the board. Okay, hearing none, is anyone online that would like to speak opposed to this rezoning? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion. My motion is to recommend to the town council that they approve this rezoning primarily because the extension of the water system will benefit the future residents of Stokesdale as well as the residents in this subdivision.
Mr. Trippett, is that motion sufficient?
It is. I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion, have a second. Any questions or discussion? That's easy. Okay, we'll call the question and vote. Mr. Louie?
Aye.
Mr. Hamel?
Nay.
Mr. Nadell?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
And I'm aye as well. Okay, new business, rezoning case number 21-04 STPL-03863, 7563 North Highway 68, ag to highway business. Mr. Bass, do you have a staff report for us?
Yes, sir. Yeah, this property is located at 7563 North Carolina Highway 68. It's approximately 1,835 feet south of Rba Road intersection, Guilford County Tax Parcel 163700, Stokesdale, North Carolina. Applicant owner is Bellion LLC. Representative Bryce Rush. This is a request to rezone property from AG Agriculture to HB Highway Business. You provided a district description with regards to the AG district, primarily intended for agricultural uses, farm residences, and minor subdivisions. The Highway Business District is primarily intended to accommodate retail services and distributive uses that are typically located along thoroughfares. With regards to the area, general character of the area, the property is in primarily a low-density residential area. The existing land use is undeveloped. However, the surrounding uses are primarily to the north is single-family, south single-family. To the east, across the street, is single-family residential. And to the west is single-family. That's a single-family residential subdivision. We found no historic properties inventoried on the site or near the site, and we did not find any there are no known cemeteries on the parcels, but however, efforts should be made to rule out the potential of unknown grave sites. With regards to the land use analysis, Land use plan, the relevant land use plan is the Stokesdale Future Land Use Plan adopted in 2007. The plan recommendation is for residential development. The town's vision for the residential development areas is that Stokesdale should be a town with a sense of community through formal and informal associations. Residential development should enhance the community through appropriate neighborhood design, connectivity, environmental protection. There should be a sense of a vibrant community, safe and convenient for our citizens, promote alternative modes of transportation. With regards to residential development at current densities, it's recommended. The plan recommends 2 commercial areas to complement the existing residential area. The site at the North Carolina, at the NC 65 and US 158 intersection, currently zoned commercial, would support small-scale shopping facility. And a neighborhood commercial office area has been designated at the intersection of NC 68 and Haw River Road. And the plan recommends 2 to 3 acres for commercial use and 2 to 3 acres for office use. Based on the staff analysis of the land use plan and the proposed rezoning, staff submits that the proposed action is not consistent with the recommendation of the Stokesdale Land Use Plan. The land use plan designates specific locations for commercial and office uses, which I stated earlier, but it does not include the subject property. The requested action is not consistent and in the public interest because the site is in an area that is primarily developed for single-family residential. Land use plan recommends the area as residential with allowance made for commercial uses at specific areas near the intersection of Haw River Road and NC 68. And based on this analysis, staff recommends denial. However, if it is approved, an amendment to the Stokesdale Land Use Plan will be required to designate the area for commercial use. And that's conclude my report.
Okay, Mr. Bass, thank you. Do we have anyone here representing the applicant?
Before we go further, I have a question, a legal issue here, question. It was brought to my attention that on a number of occasions over the last few weeks, representatives of AAA Storage have reached out to town clerk's office, town hall, asking for each individual's planning board contact information so they could have a personal conversation with each member. I then received an email about a week ago requesting a meeting, and I explained that the discussions for any type of information on a meeting or information should be at a meeting and not individual. My concern is, I'm not sure if anyone else here has had any conversations, and if they have, one, is that a legal issue for us? In other words, to hear this case, because not sure why somebody in my 4 years I've been participating in these meetings, I've never seen anybody ask for a personal meeting. And if someone has on the board had conversations, I would like to have them recuse themselves from making any decision, because that means some discussion was made prior to this meeting. So I'm asking the attorney, what's our position with my concern toward this?
I think your concerns are well-founded, and I would agree that if there have been private discussions, that the members should recuse themselves, because this is a meeting that's subject to the Open Records Act, so any discussion should take place in this forum alone. If there were any emails that were sent, those would be part of the public record, again, subject to the Open Records Act.
Okay, so I guess my next question is, has anybody on the council, or maybe our chairman can pose that question to the members to see if there has been some conversation prior to this public meeting?
Mr. Trippett, I don't know if this comes up from time to time about what's a conflict of interest and what's not, but I certainly received those same emails and had some email communication with the deputy clerk regarding this, and explained to her that we wouldn't be meeting privately with the applicant and why and so forth. And I don't know that anybody has. But do we need to get in a position of, for this meeting and at each meeting, do we need to ask each board member whether or not they've had any contact with the applicant? And then by extension of that, would we need to ask if they've had any contact with any concerned citizen that might be opposed? So, any guidance you can give us, for this case, plus going forward, would be much appreciated here.
It would certainly be a safer practice to make that inquiry and have the affirmative representation that either contact has or hasn't occurred. And for the same reasons that contact would be inappropriate with the petitioner, it would likewise be inappropriate with a private citizen.
Yeah, my concern here is that the chairman, I don't want to be the planning board police. I don't want to be in a position where I'm constantly trying to check on the members to see who they're talking to and making any judgment calls about what's appropriate and what's not. So I'm trying to kind of keep that at a distance.
I appreciate that, and I think certainly everyone here is professional, and it would be incumbent upon them to speak up if there were any such contact.
I think everybody hears you. If you think we need to ask one by one for the record, then we'll do that. Everybody here, participates in the planning board training and hopefully knows better. And so I'll leave that up to you. But if we do it tonight, then it seems like we're going to have to do it for every case.
Unless there's an allegation that contact has occurred, I don't think it's necessary to do it on each and every meeting, each and every night, each and every case.
Okay. Mr. Nadell, does that seem fair enough?
I think it does in general, but my concern is an email was directed to me to set up, to see if I'd like to set up a meeting. So that somebody's reaching out to me.
Right, I think.
And I shut that right down.
I think that's perfectly fine. That's not a private discussion, simply making the inquiry. And of course, that email is again subject to the Open Records Act, as is if you replied to it and said, no, I can't do this.
Right.
But that doesn't in any way pose a conflict of interest or anything else as far as you're concerned.
Okay.
You see my point. I
Yes.
don't know if we
Right.
need to spend 15 or 20 minutes doing
No,
this at every
absolutely.
meeting going forward.
Correct.
Okay, if the applicant wants to come forward and present to us, we would be happy to hear it.
My name is Cecil Little. I reside at 2006 Guilford College Road, Jamestown, North Carolina.
And I'm Bryce Rush. I'm 2207 Sandy Ridge, North Carolina, High Point.
I am the pawpaw. He is the grandson. Okay? He wants to get started in business, and this is his first shot. First of all, I'd like to address the issue that you have just addressed. First of all, if we ever contacted any of you, it was simply for an educational interview with you. Do you have questions about what we would like to do? Is there anything that we're doing that is wrong? And we went to you for that prior to this meeting, okay? Now, as far as my past, I have been rezoning property in Guilford and Forsyth counties for over 50 years. I have been represented by attorneys in many of those cases. Tonight, we are not. One of those attorneys you may be familiar with, Mr. Henry Isaacson. Mr. Isaacson has represented me several times. I have sat in a room like this with him when a member of a board, either the planning board or the council, was speaking against my project, and Henry whispered to me, "Did you contact her? Did you give her an opportunity to understand what it is you're trying to do?" And I said, "No, Henry, I did not." He said, "Then you've not earned her vote." Now, that's the basis upon which we have contacted you and no other basis, okay? Not to influence a vote or anything else, but simply to know that we're in line with what Stokesdale wants to have and that you understand what we're trying to do. That's all we've tried to do. And we hope that you understand that, because that's all there is to it. okay? We don't want to go against anybody's rules. We're here to obey all the rules. We thank you for the opportunity to be here with you tonight, for you to hear our case, which we think is a very good case. AAA Storage is a local family-owned business, and it's operated only within the family. It started in 1991 with one facility. We've been doing this for 30 years. We operate 19 facilities right now, and we're still growing. I'd like to believe that's because we do something right everywhere that we go. We try to do it right. We try to be a good neighbor. We try to be part of the community, and we try to give back to the communities that we're in. That is our whole modus operandi, our whole business philosophy. We have faced opposition at these kind of hearings before. We will face it tonight. We have many wonderful people here tonight who have come to speak against our proposal. We welcome them, and we believe that good discussion helps us to have a good project, just what we want. We want a project that is in keeping with the way Stokesdale is growing and coming up and the new image and everything that I see when I come up here. And I like what I see when I come up here. So that's what we want to be a part of. We have contacted all contingent neighbors. As you can tell, we're very much in contact with people, okay? As well as 5 HOAs. Ask any of them for any opposition that they may have to us or anything they want to talk to us about our project. We've invited them to a meet and greet question and answer session here Tuesday night of this week. We had one couple show up. And we've had one neighbor send us an email in addition to that. Most of their concerns hinge around the following items, okay? Number one, Highway 68, and we'll talk about that a little bit. RV, boat, vehicle, trailer storage. There won't be any, okay? Planting buffers. You have before you a packet that shows a 50-yard type A planting yard around the whole facility, which is the most extensive planting yard, as you well know, that is required by the county, okay? Noise. And noise, we feel like, is one of our better points. Noise is not a factor with our business. Noise for our business is so low level, you don't even know hardly that we're there. Traffic. Traffic is minimal. If we have 10 cars a day, probably, I'm guessing that's maybe average. We've never taken a count, okay? We are very low traffic. People come, they rent a unit. Sometimes they do that online, and we don't ever see them until they come to put their stuff in there, because that's the way things work today. So we don't even see a lot of people, but if we do see them, they come and they rent and they put their stuff in there and they go home. Very seldom do they come back and mess with their stuff. It stays there until they're ready to come and get it and take it out. So our traffic is very, very minimal. Any project that you should consider for this site that I can think of would be very, very worse than we are. If it were fast food, if it were apartments, if it were townhomes, there would be noise, there would be high traffic. We don't do any of that. We're very quiet, very low traffic. We will have a single story, not a 3-story. We keep a low profile. Therefore, a lot of people have asked, will you be able to see this project? Will it be offensive to our neighborhood? I don't think so. The old story of Storage is where there are many orange doors all down the side of the building. You will see in that packet what the side of our building looks like as a climate control. It's got maybe 4 or 5 doors on the side of it. Everything else is inside climate control. It's a whole different image from what it used to be. As a matter of fact, self-storage has grown up in the 50 years that I've been here. So, next thing is we are secured and monitored by cameras. And we only have our own customers on site. If there are apartments or townhomes and they have guests and they have parties, there are going to be people there that don't rent there, not with us. We have a gate with a personal code on it. We have cameras on site, and we monitor this through computer. We know exactly who came and who went and what time they did. So we don't have crime in our storage facilities. Highway 68, we will have a very pleasant architect-designed front. You see some of the examples of what we do there in that packet. We will have a manager on duty 6 days a week. We'll have low-level lighting. We'll have wall packs on the side of the building. That question has come up in the meet and greet that we had Tuesday night. And if you'll look at our sites, they have low-level wall pack LED lighting on the sides of the building, not tall lighting, so that it lights up neighborhoods. The entire facility will be fenced. It will be gated. It will be secure. And we will work with NCDOT and the town of Stokesdale regarding that deadly road out there called North Carolina 68. And I'm sure, because we have not been to the DOT, we always do, of course, in every project it's required. We will go to we will work with the DOT to figure out the best way to improve North Carolina 68, and as you know, that will be at our expense. So we feel that of the many other possibilities that this property could be zoned for, such as apartments, townhomes, fast food, or a host of other possibilities, none of them are as quiet, as secure, or as North Carolina 68 traffic safe as storage. So we would be very appreciative of your positive vote tonight. Thank you.
Okay, is anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this project? Is there anyone online that would like to speak in favor? Okay, hearing none, is there anyone that is opposed to this rezoning that would like to speak?
I am Don Vaughn. I'm a longtime attorney here in Guilford County. I'm a professor of law at Wake Forest University of State and Local Government and teach zoning and land use there. I rise on behalf of the many neighbors opposed to this project. If you're here tonight and opposed, would you stand up? Over here. Okay, thank you. Is there any neighbor here in favor of this? We have a number of folk that would like to speak who are neighbors who live adjacent to this property. And the ones that I have down that are here in this order, Shannon Pretty, John Pretty, Stephanie Lindsay, Jeff Carr, Jenny Kinsel, and Alex Slaughter. You heard the staff. Got one more. Give us your name. You can be last. You can back clean up. No. You heard the staff report. This is what you pay these folk for from Guilford County. The staff report is to deny. They have looked at the Stokesdale land use plan as I have, and this is not in conformity with it. It's not the place. You can hear personal examples of Highway 68, the deaths that have occurred in this area. You're going to hear their concerns of neighbors that live there. Shannon, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go in that order that I mentioned, and I'll back cleanup to the cleanup at the end.
Sir, can you go ahead and finish, and so we can go through everybody one by one? They need to speak as individual citizens, and not
I'm
part-
done with my part, but don't I get a little rebuttal at the end? Traditionally, we do. I don't have to speak at the end.
We'll do our best, so long as the applicant also gets to respond as well.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Shannon Smith-Pretty. I live at 7602 Rba Drive, Ribeier. It's a Kernersville address, but we live in Stokesdale. We're in Rba Run, which would be directly behind the proposed area. And we just got this information 7 days ago. In fact, we heard from AAA before we heard from the Stokesdale Planning Board. We got a letter a day before saying they wanted to be our neighbor and they were building this. And we were completely taken off guard. We had no idea this was coming. And then the next day, we got the town planning board. So our neighborhood has had 7 days to kind of take this in and figure out what we wanted to do about this. And I was able to look on your Stokesdale town planning information on section 4.1. It talks about how districts are established. And it talks about the highway business district in there, I highlighted, is established to provide locations for establishments which require high visibility, good road access, and which cater primarily to passing motorists. A storage unit is not catering to passing motorists. They said themselves only 10 people come a day, which I would like to see some more records on that, but passing motorists don't need this. Now, when you look at agricultural uses, it's number one, to discourage scattered commercial and industrial use. This would definitely be scattered. 10 homes surround this particular lot. There are no other businesses in that area. We sit behind them. Our whole street is here. They sit behind them. They have neighbors that are homes on both sides and several more across the street. So it would definitely violate that part of the changing it. That's why it should stay agriculture. It's also to concentrate urban development in and around growth areas. The growth area right now is around the Food Lion Shopping Center. There's more businesses going up there right now, and that's all concentrated together. This would kind of be random about 4/10 of a mile down the road, again, with residential homes. Another point I just wanted to make, and this is to keep it agriculture, it's also to discourage any use because of character, which would create premature or extraordinary public infrastructure and service demands. It would definitely destroy the character in that area. One of the most beautiful drives, even though 68 is dangerous, you leave Oak Ridge and you drive from 150 once you pass their shopping center until you get to our shopping center there. It's all beautiful trees and homes. There's not one business along there. Right now, it's gorgeous. The trees come up, you see the homes. It's pretty. I don't want one to come and then another to come and then another to come, and we have a suburban sprawl of businesses on an area that I think is just beautiful the way it is. There are already designated areas for businesses. I think we should keep those together. One of the problems that I have 2 boys that will be driving soon. One is 14 right now, one is 12. North Carolina 68 already makes me nervous for them to be on it. We've seen multiple accidents in that area since we moved in. In fact, we're not far from East Harrell, West Harrell. People who've lived in Stokesdale for a long time know that West Harrell had to be shut down. In 1999, there were 5 deaths and 2 accidents over one weekend, and that was one of the catalysts that shut that down. But since that's been shut down, even since the loop has been put in, deadly accidents continue in that area. In 2017, a man was killed about 200 yards from this property, and it's because that area is 50 miles per hour. People are going, but if you're trying to stop and turn off when people are going so fast on that narrow 2-lane road, it is so easy to have an accident. And I think about already worrying about my boys driving on 68 and then adding a business where trucks would be pulling in. Trucks may have trailers behind them pulling in things to a storage unit. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I think it could put not only my family who lives right there in danger, but anyone traveling through Stokesdale along Highway 68. There's really no need for this development. Stokesdale already has 2 storage units, and I've heard another one is in the planning, so that would make 4 in the city of Stokesdale. That's not needed. I was one of the couple, my husband and I were here on Tuesday night for the meet and greet. I asked, why would you put another in Stokesdale when there are none in Oak Ridge? This company has tried to build in Oak Ridge and were denied by their planning and zoning and town council. So tonight I'm asking you to do the same thing. Keep this area safe, stick to your town plan. It is working now. There's development going on in homes and businesses. Your residents are very happy with it, and there's no one here speaking out for a storage unit on 68 right now. Thank you.
So my name is John Pretty. Live in 7602 Rba Drive. I think you just met my wife Shannon, who I wish I'd gone before instead of trying to follow that. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. The last time I was here in front of you guys, I think I had about 6 Boy Scouts with me getting their citizenship and community badge. And so it's good to be back. My concern, 2 points, and I'll try to be succinct with it. This past November, I was traveling south on 68, and there was a truck pulling a small trailer trying to turn right into a private residence, and I think nothing's lower traffic than a private residence, and there was just not room for him to stop on 68, and we collided, and it wasn't necessarily anyone's fault, but I can tell you that one vehicle was totaled, and the other one was nearly totaled, and that there were some mild injuries involved, and it's just because 68 is a dangerous road to try to stop vehicles on, slow down vehicles, and it's not necessarily due to the amount of traffic, turning into a place. It's due to the amount of traffic trying to flow through 68. And any level of trying to slow that down is going to be more dangerous, whether you think it's 10 cars a day or more than that. The second point, I live directly behind the property that's in question, and like my wife said, we were one of the 2 people that were here on Tuesday night. We did have a lot of concerns about security, and I came back even more alarmed about the security after talking to AAA Storage. One of the concerns was on Sundays, they do not have anybody on staff on campus. They said we just have the video cameras, and so if anything goes wrong, it'll be on camera. And that is that, if you have somebody that is pulling a vehicle in or followed another vehicle into the parking deck and, gaining access to our neighborhood, that's very scary to us. Especially, I think there's over 15 children living on our street. That's very intimidating to have that kind of access that the public has backing up to our property. AAA Storage said, well, we're going to have a lot of lights at the storage unit. And we were concerned about light pollution, and he said, well, don't worry, you won't see the lights. They're all pointed down. And there does seem to be something that I still don't understand about how you can have enough lights to deter burglars or trespassers, but not enough lights, where you're going to influence the neighborhood. And I just frankly don't see how that's going to work out, especially in an area that's mostly deciduous trees. And so in the fall, after the trees are off, you can see about everything back there. And so even with AAA Storage said that there would be a chain link fence. Chain link fences are really not going to stop anybody that wants to cross a chain link fence. I mean, I think they'll keep out honest people. Anybody that wants to cross a chain link fence is going to do whatever they want to do. Do you guys have any questions for me?
We're good.
Thank you for your time.
My name's Stephanie Lindsay. Ooh, that's loud. I live at 7606 Rba Drive, so I'm on almost kind of right behind the property as well. And I would just like to express my opposition to the rezoning of the property and the potential development of the storage unit facilities. And I think they Shannon definitely hit all the high spots. Safety for sure is a concern for our neighborhood. We have multiple issues throughout the year over many years of people breaking into vehicles in the neighborhood, and so the increased traffic, and it would still be an easy access to get to the neighborhood from going into the property there. because there was a short amount of time from when we found out about this, that I did try to reach out to the neighborhood. So I went online on change.org. It's an online petition forum. So I set something up and tried to see who was opposed to the development and the rezoning. And currently, right before I got into the meeting, I looked and there were 101 signatures of area and neighborhood residents that are opposing this rezoning and the storage development. So that's all I have to say. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Jeff Carr. I live at 7604 Rba Court, actually between Stephanie and the Pretties. So this property would back up directly behind my home. I am opposed of it, and I've got several concerns. Some of them are the same as others, but the traffic certainly is a concern. I've fortunately not been in an accident on 68, but I've heard some of the car crashes. That's a big concern. With vehicles coming in, some of them have to have trailers, which make that turn in a little bit tougher, and I think a higher probability of an additional accident. Some other concerns are everything surrounding this property is currently residential. Our homes are on it, so to me, it just doesn't fit. You know, you've got something different right in the middle of these surrounding properties that are currently residential. So that's a big issue with me. I know the gentleman said they're very quiet. I don't know how you guarantee that, depending upon who's there, what they're unloading, you know, what time of day are they there. Also, a little bit concerned about just light pollution, not 100% only from the area lights they'll have, but headlights. I mean, they're pulling in the property, likely they're shining right at my house, and what time are they there? I guess it could be 24 hours a day, any time of the night. Also concerned, as John mentioned, you know, there's just a fence between me and this property that somebody can easily gain access to. That's a concern. I do have 3 kids as well. I guess those are my main concerns. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jenny Niesel, and that's Knesel, and I know it's not spelled like it is, but Jenny Niesel. I'm at 7615 Charles Place Drive. So I guess I'm like 2 streets over from where this is. So they have concerns, kind of a lot of them, as direct neighbors to this proposed site. And my main concerns, well, my biggest concern is a traffic concern, and you heard all their arguments. But I guess the different concern that I have that I want to bring to you is from a community stewardship perspective. If I lived in those houses, then I would be concerned too. I mean, they're 3 houses, Stephanie's house, Holly's house, and Shannon's house. That is kid central. The kids walk in the houses interchangeably like they own them all, and they always have 50 kids in the backyard. And if that was my house, I would be concerned because 50 feet off the back of your property, there are chain link fences and God knows who's back there and lights on all the time. And so that's a concern. But from a community perspective, we're stewards of the land for our children. And I know that sounds cheesy, but it's true. What our job is to make good decisions as a community so that future generations know that we value this land and that we're saving it for them, and we need to make good decisions. Once this is concrete, it will never be, we all know, it's never gonna be grass again. So to me, the debate is not, do we put AAA storage there or Wendy's? It's not, do we put AAA storage there or apartments? To me, the debate here is, do we really need commercial anything there? Or is the best use of the land to keep it what it is and protect it and try to do good planning and keep commercial with commercial in logical places that's safe? This, I don't know why we're debating this now, because this just doesn't make any sense in so many ways. It's not, I mean, it's not safe. When I think about adding any commercial property there is the section of 68 in Oak Ridge where the mill is, where Oak Ridge Mill, what is that called? That's right. Is that what it's called? Yeah. So you have people coming, going there, and there's forever accidents. And that's where teenagers are going to school, or they're going to Greensboro for swim practice or whatever it is, and there's accidents there all the time. We're just moving that same problem closer to us. That is not a good decision. So that is my perspective. From a community, I think, perspective, this is not affecting me directly. It doesn't back up to my house. It's not going to change my land value. From a community perspective, I think this is a bad decision.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Dalton, 7612 Rba Drive. This is my second time standing in front of this committee, speaking on behalf of not changing the land immediately behind Rba Drive between that and 68, turning it commercial. The first time was more so on three major facts, which you've heard on mostly already, which is, one, the increase in traffic and what it would do, the decrease in land value and what that would do to those on the other side and how it would impact us, and importantly, the amount of crime that's outside of the applicant's control. If you set something, a high-value target in the middle of a residential neighborhood, by proxy, the crime risk goes up for those directly around it. But I want to come today to talk about three additional challenges that are there. One being, as has been touched on already, it's been rejected once. So we're going through another round of application to go and change this commercial when it's already been, this committee has said, no, we're going to keep it consistent with the plan that's already set up. Two, forgive me, this is obviously personal, right? Because it is my kids. This is where we live. This is the equity that we have in our homes. And while the applicant, I believe in their veracity and their hopes, I have a hard time giving up my equity to boost someone else's potential gains. There are two other storage units in Stokesdale. A quick Google search will tell you that if you look at that, they're in clearly commercial areas located around manufacturing, rock quarries. And even those are, again, not approximate, but approximately over 1,000 linear feet to the next residential neighborhood. This is going and putting it directly butting up against a full neighborhood, not just a regular neighborhood, but one of the most populated in the town of Stokesdale that we live and our kids go into. So I have a hard time putting those two together. And thirdly, the applicant stated earlier today that whether it's a choice between a storage unit or something less desirable, that is the point of the zoning being what it is. It's not a matter of either or, it's already set to not be. When those are buying these properties, when those that are building on these properties backed up and looked and said, I will make this investment as it is agricultural in the background and there will not be commercial there, to then switch that, which now will devalue, that's a hard way to be. In closing, it's putting something scattershot in between residential areas, and none of the other areas, again, we talked about no storage areas are directly related, directly butting up into residential areas. And if you look at the map, again, quick Google search, so hold me against Google Maps, many of the storage locations around this location, none being in Oak Ridge, none being in Summerfield, but Stokesdale specifically, they're not backing up against any of these issues. And that's why I want to voice my opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak opposed to this rezoning? Is there anyone online that would like to speak against this rezoning? Okay, Mr. Vaughn, from what I understand, you want to offer a rebuttal that no one has come forward from the applicant's side. We certainly have a few minutes, sir.
Listen to your staff. Your staff says deny this. Your neighbors are here. These are people that live in the neighborhood. They're adjacent to this property. They ask you to keep it residential in character. Highway 68's been a problem as long as I can remember. The applicant offered no traffic study. Usually on these type of things that I end up going to other places in the state to do, we always have a traffic study. Mr. Isaacson usually has Davenport companies give the same traffic study. There's no traffic study. There's no assurance for this town to know that 68 will be better by having this. There's no study here that says that you need it. It was denied in Oak Ridge. I just had one in Person County, exact same thing, that was denied by the Person County Commissioners. I did it Monday night 2 weeks ago. The area is residential in character. That's the wonderful thing about Stokesdale. It's generally residential in character. The land use plan that was put together in 1998 looked at the future. This goes against that plan. It goes against these neighbors. We ask you to deny.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I'll entertain a motion from the board.
I would like to make a motion to deny this application based on the fact that it is not consistent with the Stokesdale land use. In addition, it has been recommended by Guilford County to deny this. And based on that fact, I feel that we should not approve this motion, not approve this application.
I'll second it.
Okay, folks. I'm not enthusiastic either way here, but I would like to clarify some things that have been said up until this point. Mr. Bass, someone stated that there was a zoning history on this property and that it had previously been denied. The paperwork I have here, it states that there's no history of denied cases.
I did not find anything in the Stokesdale records that showed that there was a denied zoning case on that site.
And you have access to all the records. So it has not been denied. In regards to the land use analysis, did you author this, Mr. Bass?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You make a reference to a site at NC 65 and US 158 that's currently zoned commercial that would support small-scale shopping facility, et cetera, et cetera. I'm having trouble connecting the dots with this particular side of town. Is that an error? Did you mean NC 68 and Haw River Road?
Well, that was an area that was specified, and that's text taken from your future land use plan. Your future land use plan recommended specific areas for commercial development in the residential area, and those were the location that was specifically identified in the future land use recommendation.
I was wondering if you might have been speaking of the area at NC 65 and NC 68.
Correct. That was one area that was identified. Then there was the Haw River Road where the shopping center is located.
65 and 158 in Stokesdale is where Stokesdale Christian Church is at, where Byright's at.
Those are commercial areas, yes, sir.
Okay. I was just trying to work through this.
I just want to be clear, just so you have your full information. This is a straight rezoning. It's not a conditional zoning. So when you're thinking about the zoning in that area, I mean, I do not doubt the intention to build a self-storage warehouse, but you also must consider other uses that can potentially be located because it doesn't put any restrictions. When it's a straight rezoning, anything allowed in that zoning can be put in there, and they're not binded. It's not binding on the property owner.
I thank you. I think that's a very good point to restate what Mr. Bass said. This will be a rezoning if it's passed to highway business, and it may or may not necessarily have a self-storage facility constructed there. And then there's a statement here that says public water is not available. The town's water main doesn't go that far
Not
towards
based
Oak
on the-
Ridge.
Yeah, but not based on the maps that I have
And
access to.
And the applicant hasn't offered to extend the water main.
Correct.
And then there's a statement, the requested action is not reasonable and in the public interest. That is based on the land use plan?
It's based on the land use plan and because the area is generally residential. When you look on each side of the property, to the north, south, east, and west, it is a little bit separated. The size of the parcel also plays a role in it. If it's a larger parcel, then it may be a consideration. But based on the circumstances, that statement was, that analysis was present.
Yeah. Well, my concern would be with the operating hours, what might go on there between, let's say, 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. if they're not restricted. And my concern would be if something is built here besides this self-storage facility that's, certainly has, attractive pictures and a nice planting yard and what have you. So, I hear the neighbors, I really do. It's the same way with me when something's rezoned in my neighborhood. But I'm also conscious of it being on NC 68 on a major corridor there. And it seems reasonable for the applicant to make the request anyway to me. So with that said, do the board members have any other questions or concerns?
I do. To you, sir, what happens when somebody abandons their belongings in your facility? Do you have then auctions of stuff that?
Yes, we follow the board.
So you will have on-site then auctions to dispose of all this, whatever is coming on. How often do you have these auctions then?
Depends on how many people pay their bill. We don't have them every month, but when we get enough of them, we get to have an auction. And also, I'd like to clear the record, because something was said here that I don't recall. That was that we agreed to extend the water line. I don't remember, just asked Rob.
No, sir, I think you misunderstood me. That was a different zoning case down on Oak Level Church Road. I didn't make that statement.
All right, one more question then. Entrance with a vehicle was pulling a trailer, how much room is there between the 68 and the next gate? Would a vehicle pulling a 24-foot trailer be able to pull all the way in to your facility before coming off of 68, even if there was nobody there to open the gates?
We've been building them for a long time, and we understand that. And so our site plan will show that there will be plenty of room to get a long trailer and a vehicle in there. In other words, we can't operate unless we design it that way.
Yeah, Mr. Louie, I would think they would have to submit a site plan to the town for approval, and we could address the stacking room at that time if that occurred. Question.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. My question's answered.
While I'm up here, I didn't understand a minute ago that I had a rebuttal, but I don't want to rebut. What I want to do is say thank you very much for hearing our case tonight. Thank you for all the neighbors who came out. And if we ever do build in Stokesdale, we want your business. We want to be a good neighbor. We appreciate it.
Any more questions? Mr. Green?
No, I'm having a hard time with this one, but I have no.
Mr. Nadell?
No, I just want to make sure that our decision covers us legally, because based on our plan, if it gets approved, legal standpoint, what position does that put us in? So that's the reason for my motion. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm concerned about the legal ramifications if this is approved, because we're violating our own plan, our own ordinance, or our own plan, I guess we're going to call it. So, and that's the main reason for me making this.
Okay, the golden rule that I tend to keep in mind is that every property owner in the state of North Carolina has the right to rezone their property to its highest and best use. Is that a fair statement, Mr. Trippett?
It is.
Okay. Mr. Hummel, do you have any questions, concerns?
No, I don't have any questions, but I agree with the denial of the application, because also in adding to it the concerns of the public surrounding the area that is completely residential and should remain residential in accordance with the land use plan.
Just going slow so we get it right. Mr. Louie, do you have any final questions or concerns?
My questions have been answered, thank you.
Okay. Well, all that being said, we'll call a question and vote. Mr. Nadell?
I vote in favor of denying it.
Mr. Hummel?
Aye. That's for denial.
Mr. Louie?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
And I am nay. Okay, that's the last item on our agenda.
Can I make a statement? I just wanted to make sure that our public is clear that this is a recommendation that goes before the town council for a final decision. I think
Okay.
the motion stated it as, so.
Yep. And I guess we'll get to that point. The Stokesdale Town Council will be here in this case. Any decision of the planning board may be appealed to the Stokesdale Town Council within 15 days of the planning board decision by date. Contacting the town clerk with a written notice of appeal. There is a $200 per case filing fee. The Stokesdale Town Council meeting will be on Thursday, June the 10th at 7 p.m. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, meeting's adjourned.